Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Khalid. But today is the 27th of March 2024 and these are the stories that we'll be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin with three important stories that concern India. First, a protest that is going on in Ladakh against the Indian government. There's a complete shutdown by the Kargil Democratic Alliance and the Leh Apex body because India's extremist ruling party in 2019 abolished a special status given to Kashmir as well as a divided Ladakh. Since then, the people in Ladakh have not been given their due rights and their due promises that had been made by the Indian government. Therefore, there are a lot of issues that concern Ladakh, and that is why the people are protesting, whether it be related to climate change, whether it be related to jobs and so many other things. Also, the reality of Narendra Modi's secular India is again put to the forefront because Uttar Pradesh, which is India's most populous state, has imposed an effective ban on madrasas and Islamic schools with an immediate effect, and this is going to, of course, affect thousands of teachers, thousands of madrasas, those who are also imparting scientific education to its students. If we remember back in January this year, the Modi government had refused to pay the salaries to more than 25,000 Muslim teachers, and in 2020 Assam had also passed a law to close the Islamic schools. Then we are also going to observe the 28th death anniversary of prominent Kashmiri lawyer and human rights activist Jalil Ahmed Andrabi, which is being observed in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and also across the world wherever the Kashmiris are present. He was apprehended in broad daylight by the Indian Army in Srinagar on the 8th of March 1996 and subsequently subjected to fatal torture and then thrown up in the river where his body was retrieved on this very day in that fateful year. A lot of sacrifices have gone down, a lot of people need to be remembered, and he is one of the most prominent. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the day 173 of the Israel-Palestinian conflict that has been going on. The resolution has been passed by the United Nations Security Council for ceasefire during the holy month of Ramadan and also for a continuous supply of aid. The fact remains that Israel continues to bombard Rafah and the number of casualties, the number of deaths is continuously increasing despite the resolution having been passed. The defense secretaries of both Israel and the US have also met in Washington, and this has also been said by Austin Butler to the Israeli side that they need to do the needful, and because the number of casualties is way too high. Then, of course, we will be finally talking about a ship that has rammed into a bridge in Wednesday night in the United States of America, and of course that bridge has completely collapsed. Joe Biden says he's going to reconstruct the bridge as an urgent affair, but of course there have been 6 deaths and many have been injured. Finally, we're going to talk about the 126th death anniversary of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. This is being observed today. He was a big movement leader as far as the Pakistan movement is concerned. He was a scholar, philosopher and educationist, and of course we have all read of his story and his career and all the work that he has done for the ultimate creation of Pakistan in our curriculum books as well as we were growing up. Let's come with our first story, and that concerns India. 3 important aspects concerning India, and we have a very prominent guest with us in the studios, Altaf Ahmed Wani Sahab. He is a Kashmiri leader and he joins us back here in the studios after visiting Geneva to highlight the Kashmir cause there. Thank you very much, Wani Sahab, to have joined us. Wani Sahab, let's begin with Ladakh. For over 2 weeks, thousands of people in Ladakh are protesting against the denial of the basic rights which are not being given, to those people since August 2019, when the Ladakh was illegally separated from Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. It has still remained in limbo ever since. Will Ladakh ever be provided its due right?
You think when the Indian government, this current Indian government, dismembered the state of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir on 5th August 2019 and created 2 union territories, that of Jammu and Kashmir, and promised that it will be with a legislature, and Ladakh it will be without legislature. At that time, Government of India had promised it to the people of Ladakh and others, their allies, to handpick their support and all that Ladakh will be put in the 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution. That means it will be whole of the Ladakh, that means Leh, and Kargil, both the districts of Ladakh, those areas will be declared as in the 6th schedule. That means they are tribal status, they will get the tribal status, so they will have their share in jobs, in everything. And also on the top of it, the people, after that we saw many promises were made by the government of India in that reorganization.
They also said that they will be given a statehood, which was never given.
Reorganization Act, all that. But after that we saw a deafening silence there on behalf of government of India. Government of India did not do anything. On the top of it, we saw China, India standoff in the Ladakh region in most of the parts, and that because of that India deployed more and more army to the region, and then constructed roads, and that had the military installation, heavy machinery and all that to that place. That has caused also the ecological problems over there, the environmental problems over there. So a climate, then we saw in 2020 we saw that cloud burst in Ladakh, Kargil and other places that took hundreds of lives over there, which did not happen before there. It was because of that climatic change which took place, of this land erosion and all that which took place. But the government of India only did what they did. They only, in order to counter the China, they shifted more and more military over there. They constructed more and more cantonments there, and on the top of that, they tried to take away the minerals. And already we saw after the revocation of Article 370 and 35A, now any Indian can do any mining in Indian occupied Kashmir, including that of Ladakh, we say. So these rights also went to the non-state subjects, and this caused a very panic in this people of Ladakh. And also we saw, when you put a state into a union territory, then you took all the rights of the people that for their jobs and all that, and then the people of Ladakh thought that they are not eligible now for the job, being a backward area at the top of the world, and they have to compete with the people of Delhi, Arunachal Pradesh and other people for the jobs. So this is another reason for this what we see there at present with the agitation in Ladakh. The government of India did not address all these issues. Now these two apex bodies which are organizing this protest in Ladakh, which we call the Ladakh apex body and the Kargil Democratic Alliance, these two bodies have put up a set of demands with the government of India, and until now the government of India did not manage any of the credible committee or any credible their leadership at the top to reach out to these people. These people, you know what is the temperature of Ladakh. Under that temperature, the climate change activists, the renowned the academician of that area, the scholar, what's the name of his, Wangchuk, he remained on on fast. And recently he was on hunger strike, and only it's 18 hours now. He has finished his hunger strike, but has said this is not the end of the struggle. The struggle will continue. This is the stop of the start of the struggle. The struggle now, the people demand the statehood for Ladakh, number one. Number two, with the legislature. They demand 2 parliamentary constituencies for the
Leh and Kargil.
Leh and Kargil, and also they demand the 6th schedule for it, and they demand the preservation of their land rights, these rights.
Will that happen?
I don't think the way the government of India is implementing its agenda in Indian occupied Kashmir, in Kashmir Valley and in Jammu, and the same way they are implementing in Ladakh. And this is what we said earlier, when in 2019 it happened. We said to those people who at that time celebrated this, that we got this much, we will now have that. And we, the people in Kashmir, said at that time that the people of Jammu and Ladakh will have to repent on this. Those people who are just this time joyous on the abrogation of Article 370, who collaborate themselves with the BJP, now they face the music. Now they are facing the music along with the people of Indian occupied Kashmir. Of course, the way the Indian government is changing the demographic in Indian occupied Kashmir, they are implementing laws in Indian occupied Kashmir, they are taking away the lands, they have given the army the rights to take the land, any land declared as strategic and you have not to get NOC from any of the civilian authority. So in Ladakh, they will do the same. They are doing the same. They are taking those lands. They are taking those mines. The Indian realtors are coming there to build their own infrastructures over there. So I don't think the government of India is going to do anything about it. The only thing what government of India did when Narendra Modi visited Jammu and then Kashmir, he then promised again that development. We have come with the development.
But
this development is occupation. This is settler colonialism. This is not development. This is settler colonialism. You are constructing the roads not for us but for the army. You are constructing the cantonments. You are doing all that thing, but for not the people of Kashmir, but for the army people. You are constructing mandirs and other things in occupied Kashmir in order to change its religious landscape in Kashmir. And so they are doing all this, and now we have seen not only in Ladakh, in Jammu, there are cries from the Dogras also. The Dogras of Jammu, they have agitated against this because they are the first to be the casualty of this land grab. Because any of the investors who comes from India, first of all, they will invest in the plans of Jammu. They feel themselves safe there. So it is first target is the Dogra of Jammu who celebrate that time. So they have also started the agitating for it, and I don't see at this time the government of India coming to be, because the elections in India.
Of course, they want to adhere to the vote bank as well.
They want to address to their vote bank. They want to take that vote bank. When so I don't think government of India coming to the terms of this, but this agitation is, we have not seen such agitation in Ladakh in the history, the way the people in such a chilling temperature are there for so much time, 10,000 people, and for 20 days 60,000 people remain there to protest for their rights, and they are still protesting.
You know, the fact
hats off to those people who are doing this heroic struggle against the Indian government and for their rights.
But Wani Sahab, the fact is, you know, they have to do it because they have no other option left. They have to go for this protest, because if they don't go for this protest, people will not even listen to or not even understand what their plight is. They said the plight of the people is not only in Ladakh, not only in the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, but also specifically targeting the Muslims within India as well. Now, this whole fate of the thousands of Muslim teachers and hundreds of thousands of Muslim students who have been, getting education in madrasas is at stake, because Allahabad High Court has scrapped the Uttar Pradesh Board of Madrasa Education Act 2004 and calls it unconstitutional. There are 16,513 madrasas where 22.5 million students are getting their education, not only regular education or religious education, but also scientific education. Is this another attempt to marginalize Muslims in India?
You see, I talked about the Indian elections, the coming Indian elections. You see, this Muslim vote in UP in past used to play a vital role in electioneering. During the Congress era and all that, Congress used to hand with them for their own reasons and all that, although they were also the same people. But now, the BJP started the selection campaign by first opening of Ram Mandir. The Ram Mandir was inaugurated. This was the start of the BJP's election campaign, the way they did it, in order to tell the people of India, to tell the Hindus, the radicals of India, that we have done it, and this is here. After the Babri Mosque is no more there, now there is Ram Mandir. They say this will be a place of knowledge, this is a place of religion and all that, all the people can come over there. And then, now to target the Muslim voters, already they are under attack by this BJP regime for last 8 years, and since this Adityanath Yogi became the Chief Minister of UP, we have seen lots of custodial killings over there, we have seen lots of abductions there, we have seen lots of harassments of other people over there, and the people are flying away from the UP because of these reprisals, because anybody who talks about rights, especially Muslim, he is being taken to the task. So what the government of India did, this is again a trick by the BJP government. they went to the court because this act was passed in 2004 by the Samajwadi Party government. At that time, a board was constituted for the Muslim schools and madrasas who are giving the Islamic education as well as the scientific education, because these are not the new creations.
Of course.
These madrasas are before the partition of the subcontinent. These madrasas
have
existed there. There were the big religious seminaries in that part of the country. So now to target those Muslims in order to make them on one hand they are targeting the Muslims, on the other hand they are getting the sympathies of the radical Hindus, that we are on the path right to make the India a Hinduta nation. We are on our on the path of our forefathers, Swami, the forefathers of Rashtriya Sevak Sangh, and we are on that. And that's why now after so much of time, now they have declared it illegal. It is against the democracy, it is against the secularism and all that what court said.
And it says a violation of Article 21A and 21.
And all they say. But at the same time, when we see in India what is how the Indian courts have the Allahabad court, this Lucknow bench of Allahabad court has acted in it, we also see in India there are different seminaries or different madrasas, or we call schools of the Hindus and other religions also. Gurukul, and we know them by not only through the name but also through the Indian cinemas and through the Indian.
But they have not been told to stop their
They have not been closed. They have been freehand. We see what is happening in Varanasi. We see what is happening in the Madhya Pradesh and all that, where the RSS and in Maharashtra where they are on rampant. But their schools are not scrutinized, they are not, it is only to target the Muslims. The Muslims of UP are being targeted for that, because more than, as you already said, that more than 25,000, 225,000 students, and these are not
2.5 million
students. And it is not only 1,600 16,500 are the recognized schools, and there are also 8,500 unrecognized schools also in that, and along with the population in UP of the Muslims is 19.26% in the UP. So it is a huge attack on the Muslims' identity, their education, their religion. It is in a way direct interference in their religious affairs, the way the government has acted in this. So again I will say, this is election campaign, this is election, and India is itself on the marching towards the completion of its Hindu Rashtra agenda and saying goodbye to democracy, to secularism.
But that is true, Wani sahab, but doesn't that constitute also a violation of Article 29 and 30 of the Indian Constitution that gives minorities of India the right to run their educational institutions?
You see, you're very much right. This Indian Constitution, the founder of the Indian Constitution was Dr. Ambedkar. Dr. Ambedkar, who was the founder of this Indian Constitution, who is called the father of the Indian Constitution, soon after this Constitution came in place in 1954, in the Parliament of India said, if it was not a crime to burn this book, I would have burned it right now.
Oh.
Because none of the articles, what is written in it, what is published in it, is practically implemented. Not to talk of the minorities. Now the minorities are at the brink, not only Muslims, the Christians, the Sikhs, the Dalits, the Adivasis. Every minority in India is at the brink of extinction, because they are facing so much of reprisals, they are facing so much of terrible repression on the part of the radical Hindus, condoned by the state. We see that people of different religions could always have some rifts, but here it is the state which has given assent to all these things, and state is making laws, and its agencies and the radicals are implementing those laws and pushing the minorities of India, especially Muslims and Christians, at the brink of extinction, and to force them to leave India.
Wani Sahib, you have just returned from Geneva, where you've been highlighting the cause of Kashmir in front of an international audience. I'd like to remind you of 1994's annual United Nations Human Rights Council Convention in Geneva, where a particular person, Advocate Jalil Ahmed Al-Rabi, also presented the case of an illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. He was apprehended, brutally tortured and killed by the Indians, and of course we know of Major Avtar Singh of the Indian Army's 35th Rashtriya Rifles, who was behind his killing. And then he was then thrown in the Jhelum river, and his body was discovered on this very day today, in that fateful year, and today is 28 years since his body was discovered. Will the family of Mr. Al-Rabi ever get justice?
You see, Jalil Al-Rabi was not only a jurist, a good friend of mine. We have been friends for a long time over there, worked together in different fields, but he was a jurist. I was not a jurist, and I was just an activist. But it was unfortunate that Jalil was the first Kashmir Bar Association published a human rights report on Kashmir. They compiled a huge book way back in 1994, Kashmir Bar Association, and Jalil Al-Rabi went with that report to the Geneva, to the Human Rights Commission, and presented that report over there, and that was very much appraised by the human rights fraternity over there, and also by the diplomats. And at that time we had the UN experts who were staying there. Those experts also had a good interaction with the Jalil Al-Rabi and all that. When Jalil returned, one of our friends says, he's also, I would not name him, he's in Delhi. He told Jalil, don't go to Srinagar because you will be killed in Srinagar. You stay in Delhi, don't go there. But Jalil was a brave man. He went to Srinagar, and then, as you said, on the March 3rd, 1996, he was abducted from his home by Major Avtar Singh, and later on 27th, his dead body was found in Kursu Rajbagh, floating on the river Jhelum's bank there. And then there was very hue and cry because Jalil was the part of Kashmir Bar Association, and Kashmir Bar Association at that time was a very strong body. Its voice was heard world over. So the Kashmir Bar Association and also the human rights defenders around the globe at that time, they raised questions on this killing. They put the pressure on the government of India, and for the first time an FIR was filed against a police, an army officer of 5th Rashtriya Rifles, Major Avtar Singh.
But
the government of India, in order to, instead of presenting him in the case, they gave him an escape route. He went to the Canada, and then from Canada he fled back to United States. But the international community, human rights defenders, and the law was following him everywhere.
Okay.
Because it was proven that Mr. Avtar Singh was the murderer of Jalil Al-Rabi. He was the man who killed the Jalil Al-Rabi in custody through the torture. But again, he used to shift from one place to another place in United States, and then a divine intervention came. It was divine intervention. I remember the date. It was in September, or perhaps. The Major Avtar Singh killed himself and his whole family in Ontario and Los Angeles. He killed himself and his whole family in Ontario. That was divine intervention.
Indeed.
Not the Indian legal system did not give any justice to the Jalil's family. Indian legal system did not provide any justice, but the divine intervention proved in that case, and Major Avtar Singh finished himself.
Now we are also looking for divine intervention as far as in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. All those other leaders who are also incarcerated and are being tortured and are being subjected to different machinations in order for their voices to be stopped. I hope that intervention also interferes and does the needful as far as all these people and the people of illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. Thank you very much, Altaf and Wani Sahib. It's a pleasure to have you in our show. Our second segment concerns day 173 of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Whether despite the fact that the United Nations Security Council resolution has been passed, Israel continues its offensive in Rafah and other parts of Palestine. The aid is still not arriving as it should to the people of Palestine, and more people are dying of dehydration and starvation. We've been joined by Dr. Maleeha Lodhi. She's a former ambassador to the United Nations. Thank you very much, ma'am, to have joined us. Ma'am, I'd like to begin with this whole delivery of aid. Now that the United Nations Security Council has approved a resolution that also talks about it, shouldn't aid now be resumed through the land routes instead of through air routes, where it is not only a bit more difficult but also has caused some deaths?
Well, to start with, we have to wait and see whether Israel abides by and implements the ceasefire. Because without that, obviously, you're not going to get significant assistance, humanitarian assistance into Gaza. And at the moment, it's unclear whether Israel is going to implement this. There's a big question mark there. Because as you know, Israel has continued to carry out air attacks in many parts of Gaza. And there is still the danger and the threat of its long, threatened ground offensive in Rafah itself. So the situation is very dire. You're absolutely right. The assistance should go in because, in theory, there is a ceasefire resolution which has been adopted by 14 members of the Security Council, with the United States not opposing it. So, big question still out there.
All right. Now, other questions out there also. Of course, one of the major is whether Israel is going to comply with the United Nations Security Council resolution, because if you remember well, one of the State Department spokespersons said that it is not binding, but there have been rebuttals on that, and there have been the United Nations spokesperson as well as other people, as other ambassadors at the United Nations have said it is completely binding. So who should we believe?
I think it's very clear. We have to believe what international law says. And the situation is that all UN Security Council resolutions constitute international law. And therefore, they have to be implemented. They have to be abided by. So I think for anyone to say it's not binding, then why do a resolution? This is a resolution that's calling for specific action. And that action is to end the fighting, to have a ceasefire during the rest of the month of Ramadan.
I totally agree with you. Also, ma'am, the U.S. Defense Secretary, Mr. Austin, has told Israeli Defense Minister during a meeting that the civilian death toll in Gaza was far too high. The amount of humanitarian aid reaching Palestinian civilians was far too low, and has suggested alternatives to this major Israeli operation in the south. Of course, he was referring to Rafah. But another comment that I'd also like your point of view on is Gallant saying that neither Israel nor Hamas will govern Gaza after the war ends, and that a local alternative must be found. He was talking to Reuters, and this is the quote that was given. A, is Israel willing to listen to US or others post the United Nations Security Council resolution? B, who is going to actually govern Gaza post this conflict?
Well, to start with, this is a bit of a red herring right now. It's not for the United States to decide who will govern the Palestinians. Only the Palestinians can govern themselves. So, it's all very well to say all these off-the-cuff, make all these off-the-cuff remarks to the media from time to time. But it's not for anyone outside, Palestine to determine how Gaza is to be governed. It's really, it's what international agreements are already in place. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel here. But again, I would say we're jumping 5 steps ahead, or maybe 10 steps ahead. We need a ceasefire. We need it now. And we need a permanent ceasefire. This is only a temporary ceasefire for just the next 2 weeks remaining of the month of Ramadan. So I think what we need to see the international community do is, one, to ensure that Israel does abide by the ceasefire for the next 2 weeks at least, and then look at how a permanent ceasefire can take place. It's only then, when the war comes to an end, that the future of Gaza, the future of the two-state solution itself, and the future of what kind of a peace can be restored in the Middle East can be discussed.
All right. Ma'am, kindly stay online. We've also been joined by Haneen Harara. She's a Palestinian journalist and she's right there where all of this is happening. Haneen, thank you very much to have joined us. Haneen, Britain's United Nations Ambassador Barbara Woodward says that the resolution, the United Nations Security Resolution that has been passed is binding and needs to be implemented immediately. United Nations Deputy Spokesperson Farhan Haq also clarifies that all the resolutions of the Security Council are international law. They are as binding as international laws. Is pressure mounting on Israel to comply with the United Nations Security Council resolutions as attacks continue in Rafah and other places of Palestine?
Well, it's 170 days of ongoing appalling atrocities against innocent people all over the Gaza Strip. If we talk about the civilians across the Gaza Strip from the north to the south, it's increasing in the south itself, which is designated to be safe zone for the people who are forced to displace from their homes and directed to the south there, where we supposed to have safe shelters there. But we witnessing every single day a new massacres against civilians, innocent people, such as children, women who are targeting directly with her babies, with her children, with her kids, the elderlies, the injured people, even the people who are suffering from chronic disease. The situation there is dire and it is getting worse day by day. Every single day we wake up and think about it's not will be worse if we can believe and trusting in the negotiations way and the international law. But it's unfortunately we facing the worst every single day. We facing more than death. So imagine with me how dire it is just when the fathers and the mothers are just go out the shelters looking for food for their children, and in these circumstances and conditions they facing the starvation and famine and disease around the area, which is the southeast point of the Gaza Strip, the Rafah city, which is just about 55 square kilometers. So each square meters consists of 27,000 and 2070 of people. So imagine how crowded it is. It's the most crowded point in the globe, and this is make it as an area with full of disease. This is, we could say, the disease could be deadlier than the direct strikes or even the attacks by land or by sea or by even air. The situation, unfortunately, in Ramadan is even getting catastrophic because the people are dying before Ramadan from starvation and famine. And in Ramadan, you have not even have a chance to get one meal. The humanitarian aid was supposed to enter the Rafah city, which about 100 trucks per day is decreasing now. And if we talk about the humanitarian aid that landing by some Arabs or countries by the airports, we could say this is a humiliation way to deal with those people, because you talk with the most dignified people. This land, which used to be land of all goods and all even plants, all fruits and diverse vegetables and food. You talk with the most humanitarian people who are just fighting for their freedom and dignity.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that, Haneen.
The way that we deliver the humanitarian aid, it's so humiliating our people, our children, when they are just go there and fighting for some pieces of canned food, and the women who are dying in the streets trying to get these trucks of humanitarian aid. And we are witnessing many trapping, we could say, in the middle of Gaza Strip, the Gaza city itself, Al-Kuwaiti area where the people are just trying to awaiting the humanitarian aid at Annabolsi area, the western part of Gaza City, beside Al-Rashid street, which is now completely destroyed. The people there getting killed. So how the people could be peer with the negotiation that we are listening from the first day of these aggressions and this war against our people? How we could believe on those people who are even occupied our land? How we could even convince the people that we are torturing, even as a collective punishment, all of us in this small area? Where have the people are just shall to go? We are in the southeast point that the IOF are just forced the people to get there. We are stuck here. So we have two options: to go to the sea and die there, or even the Egyptian border, which is the first, which is one of the solutions that they are looking to, ethnic cleansing the people from the Gaza Strip and go to Sinai. But the people have no option more. They have no option even. They want to sustainable ceasefire, immediately ceasefire, because we cannot witnessing anymore.
I agree with you on. I agree with you on.
Killing those innocent people of children and women.
Stay with us, Haneen. Stay with us. We've also got another guest who's waiting for us. Dr. Maleeha, Lodhi, the Qatari Foreign Ministry says that talks are ongoing in Doha as far as this ceasefire agreement or the negotiations process was going on, despite earlier reports that the Israeli delegation had left for Qatar. This was also stated by Reuters that the Israelis had left for Qatar. Will such negotiations continue? Will some solution be found sooner than later? Because you must have heard Haneen talking about the dire situation for the Palestinians in all over Palestine, including in Rafah.
Well, it's hard to say because these talks in Doha have been going on for a long time, and they've often ended in a stalemate. And then there's a disruption, and there's a pause, and then the talks restart. So it's hard to say at this point. I think the key right now is not these talks in Doha. The key right now is what will happen to what emerged from New York, from the United Nations. Will Israel actually stop the war for the next 2 weeks at least? Will Israel abide by the UN Security Council resolution? Will Israel defy them and therefore defy the will of the international community, all of the international community? As I said before, remember, the United States has also shifted course. It has changed its position. It may claim that it hasn't, but it actually has, because the U.S. vetoed 3 earlier resolutions calling for a ceasefire. This time it didn't. So Israel is completely isolated today in the world. But if Israel continues its act of defiance, then we will have to see how the international community will respond to that.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Maleeha Lodhi, to have joined us and to have given us your valued opinion as far as this conflict, this war, this genocide, this ethnic cleansing is going on. Thank you very much, ma'am. Coming back to Haneen. Haneen, you were talking about, aid, and I'd like to come back to aid and UNRWA. The role of UNRWA has been extremely important as far as the aid that was being supplied to the Palestinians is concerned. Now that Israel has said it does not want to work with UNRWA, will not allow it to work, there are other countries like Germany who are allowing UNRWA activities to go on and are also funding them. Do you feel there is some kind of a future as far as UNRWA and restoration of supply of aid through land routes is concerned?
Well, we're concerning about every single thing and every single aid supposed to enter the Gaza Strip, because we have lack of medicine, a huge shortage of food. We just in famine. That's it. And we cannot even express or explain the worse than the people are dying from starvation in Palestine, in the Gaza Strip, the area which used to be the most diverse area for food and so on. We have not enough water, no clean water even to drink, no water to use. So we have many things that are disappearing from the market itself. You have to fight in the market to get some vegetables or even some kind of canned food because it's rare and it's so expensive. The parents and return back handful because they have no option left to get this humanitarian aid. And the crossing border is just closed from time to time, and the Israeli authorities are just restricted the humanitarian aid that's supposed to enter the Gaza Strip. In this situation, we used to get 600 trucks in the normal situation before October 7. So we talk about abnormal situation now. And in Ramadan, the unneeded people are just increasing. So how those people are just want to deal with these circumstances in Ramadan? They think that Ramadan month will be the limit for them to stop and cease fire the atrocities, the appalling atrocities against the people in the Gaza Strip. But in the first day of Ramadan, they target the women at suhoor. So they just testing the reaction of Muslims and Arab world. And when they find that there is no answer, it is the same thing that happened in Naksa in 1967 and in Nakba in 1948 when they burned the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and Golda Meir, the previous minister of the Israeli authorities, I just said, cannot even, I never cannot even sleep this night because I just waiting the reaction of Muslims and Arabs toward this crime, burning Al-Aqsa Mosque. No one act, no one. And this is just repetition of the cycle of atrocities by Israeli authorities now. They doing the same thing in Ramadan, and no one can just moving to get a ceasefire to this hell that all of us are witnessing. Let me be clear. The social media are full of videos that shows the people what is going on in the Gaza Strip. And we cannot convince the world anymore, because if there is any intention to be convinced as a human being of what is going on here against children and women and the civilians across the Gaza Strip from the north to the south, you have not to wait anymore. You have to do real action. And don't underestimate your step to get a real action to stop these massacres against Palestinians in Gaza. And even the West Bank, because I
totally agree with you, Haneen. I totally agree with you, Haneen, and I think it is time that the world stands as one and does the needful for the hapless people of Palestine. Too much blood has been shed, too many people's lives have been lost, too many have died of starvation, 27 to be exact as far as the latest are concerned, of starvation, of which 23 are children, and the list goes on, and the atrocities of Israel on Rafah also continue as we speak. With the whole thing of the ground offensive in Rafah also looming large, let's hope for a quick resolution to all of this and the implementation, the strict implementation of the United Nations Security Council resolution on Palestine. Thank you very much, Haneen Harara, to have joined us all the way from Palestine. Let's come to our last stories. The first concerns Baltimore, a harbour where search divers were expected to return near dawn again today to the water surrounding the ruins of a bridge that was knocked down in Baltimore Harbour by a faltering cargo ship, which has left 6 workers missing, and now they are presumed to be dead. Rescuers did pull 2 other workers from the water alive on Tuesday. One of them has been hospitalized. The 6 presumed to have perished include workers from Mexico, Guatemala and El Salvador. Our deepest condolences for all those who have lost their lives, and of course, as Joe Biden said, he's going to do the needful to reconstruct the bridge at the earliest. Finally, today, ladies and gentlemen, is also the 126th death anniversary of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. He was a renowned scholar. We all know that he was one of the basic patrons of the Pakistan movement, a philosopher and educationist. He is hailed as the father of the two-nation theory and one of the founding fathers of Pakistan, along with Allama Iqbal and Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He was the founder of the Aligarh movement, which was the base of the Pakistan movement, and he passed on in this very day in 1898 in Aligarh in India. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new stories and segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.